Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by Christopher Hamze, founder of teelaunch, a futuristic print-on-demand fulfillment company. They take your design ideas and orders and fulfill them from start to finish. So put simply, that means you don't need any inventory, any large investments, or anywhere to store and ship your products. You only pay for the items printed, so you only pay if you sell something. They let you focus on what you're good at and what's most important to your business, while they will take care of the rest. They are able to do this by simplifying cutting-edge technology and software, so you don't need to worry about logistics or new technological developments. You can simply run your business by clicking buttons. I've asked Christopher to join us here today so we can all understand how technology is shaking up industries like print on demand. So Christopher, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Yeah, it's good. Well, we've actually talked for a couple of hours before this because it's just such a fascinating industry, and it's just a breath of fresh air, I think, to see how things are changing and evolving and kind of be on the inside of that. So now, but before we get into the whole story of what you're doing now and, and how you're revolutionizing things, how did you even get started in business? Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Like, where did you get the bug?
Yeah, I mean, in our family, it's very uncommon to have a normal 9 to 5. My dad's owns 20 plus restaurants in the last 35 years. And we've all tried, I guess, to work for other people and be normal, but we just have too much energy and enthusiasm for running our own business.
So what kind of businesses did your parents run?
So yeah, the first one they had, it was a coupon book. They were in college and they bought a little computer, bought a printer, went and sold ads to, all the little businesses in town and just sold ads in a little newspaper. And then he had a donut restaurant, a chicken restaurant, a pizza restaurant. I mean, we've had so many restaurants in all different areas of food that, yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you grew up with mom and dad always running a business, and how was it? Were you guys like rich and famous? Was it a lot of grueling? Like, what was the experience like? Because for some people, like you said, it's not normal. Most people got to get up for their 9 to 5. So what is life in your household like? Like, are weekends off? Are weekends always working? What have you noticed any big differences between you and other people that you grew up with?
Yeah, we never had days off. I mean, there's very few days the restaurants closed. So, it was Easter Sunday, Christmas Day. I mean, there's probably 6 days off a year we take. And that's just because the employers wouldn't work and no one would come to the restaurants.
Got it. Okay. So your family was mostly the coupon business and they got into a bunch of restaurants. And how did you get started? What was your first business that you did? Or did you helped run the other businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I was involved in the restaurant since, age 8 probably. But my first real business, so back, what was it? It was right around the time when Google AdWords first came out. I found a guy that did drop shipping of scooters. So those little 50cc, stand on it, had a gas motor, trigger on the handle. And it was crazy because I started a website called dirtcheapscooters.com. And I was buying keywords, scooters, 50cc scooter, 49cc scooter. And, the margin per one was like $250 or $200. And I was paying like $5 a conversion because back in those days, there was nobody bidding on scooter keywords. And it was fat. Yeah, it was a fun business.
So what happened?
So what happened was I had no money. So this is, remember, the checkout was PayPal. And this is the early days of PayPal. We had then you copy and paste the HTML code, and that's your little button that just redirects you to PayPal. But completely broke. So it just worked because you could take the money and then place a scooter order. But I had one customer where she's decided she didn't want it, and this is before I didn't know anything about chargebacks or anything. And so she said, "No, the scooter looks used. I don't want it." And I said, I don't take returns, so you have to keep it." And then she did a chargeback. And I assumed, okay, I lost. She's going to charge it back. She'll send it back. I'll resell it. No problem. Never sent it back. She wasn't going to send it back. I couldn't make her send it back. And so all the money I had made, because you sold the scooters for like $600. I mean, your margin was 200, but that's $600 I lost from her, wiped out
Oh no.
what I had left. And it just kind of ruined the business for me. Like, you didn't think, I mean, when someone steals something from you, it makes it not fun, and you're just like, why would I keep doing this if this? Because again, I mean, at that time, or even now, you think about it. I mean, if someone does a chargeback, it's very hard to get your
Right.
stuff back, or to win the chargeback. So I kind of just got discouraged and gave up.
So then what did you do next? I mean, clearly that wasn't the end of your business career.
No, after that, let's see. I used to go to auctions. So in our part of South Dakota, they're obsessed with auctions. So you'd go a school, a restaurant, anything that didn't have stuff they didn't want. So I'd go to auctions, and I'd buy selector typewriters, buy old computers. I'd buy anything technological, and I'd sell on eBay. And I think I made $15,000-$16,000 in a summer, and that was senior year of high school.
Yeah, that's really good. You're rolling in dough at that age.
And then, for a while I thought I'm just going to focus on school and get a job. But junior year of college, we got bored. And so we opened this big restaurant. It was a huge restaurant with an arcade. And it was like the dumbest idea I've ever had, because we had no idea what we're doing. That big of a restaurant. Before, I had a lot of little ones. And this one just the cost skyrocketed. Things got out of control. And luckily we made a bunch of money and then lost a bunch of money and then broke even and got out of it. But yeah, that was that was an interesting time of our life. And then after that, we went to law school. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to focus on this. Got my MBA. And then when I graduated, I just didn't want to practice law. And so I was trying to think of what could I do that would make more money than a lawyer. And so kind of stumbled into what was the precursor to teelaunch.
And what was the precursor to teelaunch?
So we fell in love with the technology. So DTG at that time it's been probably was out for about 8 to 10 years, but it was very unknown to people. It was one of those things that it was just, I was obsessed with this particular machine called a Cornet for at least 8 years, but it was very expensive. It was $150,000. I never had the money or the audacity to even think about spending that much money on one machine. And so just me and my cousin, we decided, that we're going to give this a go. And we didn't really even have a business model. It was basically, the technology is so infatuating that we're just going to try it. That was a disaster for 2 years before teelaunch got going.
Okay. So what was the big challenge? You say it was a disaster. Why was it a disaster? What was the big hurdle that you had to overcome? What was the obstacle or
So the problem is people, the way we were selling shirts, people didn't want to pay for them. So basically, if someone could go out and buy 50 shirts from a screen printer, your cost is probably $5 a shirt. But when you're doing DTG one at a time, that same 50 shirts, it has to be $7 or $8, because that's just the way the technologies are. There's the ink cost is more, the labor is more. And so trying to sell to these small businesses, we tried this model where we went after like small bands, rap artists, stuff like that. They didn't get it, because they're like, hey, I was paying $5, now I'm paying $8, even though I can have more colors, because DTG is like full color versus screen printing, you have to pick and choose. They just didn't get it. And then as we started getting deeper and deeper, we bought this machine. It's $150,000. And the minute we bought it, it became obsolete. The technology was advancing at such a rapid pace that was like totally lost. And then we had to keep doubling down. So by the end, before the summer before teelaunch got going, we're about $750,000 in debt just from buying machines just to try to keep up with, because basically the newer the machine, the faster it is. And the faster it is, the lower your labor. And so we're just trying to find a way to get our cost per print down low enough to make these small local jobs make sense. But it was pretty obvious it wasn't going to work, because there just wasn't enough local people who wanted T-shirts to pay back that enormous amount of debt.
So you were having trouble, I guess, finding demand, right? Like you kind of set up this infrastructure, we're getting going, but you couldn't really feed it with enough volume to keep, to what economies of scale. right? To meet the economies
Correct.
of scale
Yep.
that you need. So what did you do?
So we're probably 6 months away from just declaring bankruptcy and giving up. And then I was in on Facebook, seeing all these Facebook groups pop up, all about Teespring. So at that time, Teespring was between Facebook ads and Teespring kind of coming out around the same time. People figured out that you could just sell the silliest shirt, but as long as it was very focused on a certain type of person, it would sell like crazy. And so all these people they're talking about not being happy with Teespring. Teespring had some trouble scaling, only sell shirts, you couldn't sell anything else. And so people were kind of they're migrating off of Teespring onto Shopify. So
Hmm.
we looked at it and said, hey, we can borrow on credit cards another 30,000. After that, we're out of business. And so I probably interviewed 20 developers, and every single one thought it was a dumb idea and wouldn't do it, and then also wanted a lot of money. Found this little agency out of LA that they understood it, they got it, and they were also at a point in their career where they needed the money, so they did it for $30,000. And we took a risk. We thought, okay, let's try it. If it doesn't work, then we're done. If it works, we can keep moving.
And
It worked. So we launched the app. Let's see, August 14th, 4 years ago, so 2015. And before that, we had some like customers in that vein. We had a temporary app we built before that. So we had some customers. We knew that anecdotally it was working, but not the scale that would take to pay off our debt. And so we just tried it. The first week, we probably gained, first day, no customers. Second day, no orders. And we went probably 4 or 5 days and nothing happened. And right away, people are thinking we just blew all the money we had left in the world on a dumb idea. But then second week, it got a few more customers, a few orders. By the end of August, we did $500,000 in revenue.
wow.
So by the second month, September, it's probably $750,000 in revenue. And then by the end of the year, we're doing $1 million a month.
Wow.
And at that point, we had to bring on the guys who sold us the machine. We had to hire them to outsource the majority of our production because we could not actually print enough shirts on the machines that we had.
Right. So what happened? Like, you rode into the sunset with this $1 million a month company, and now you have bought an island, and you have your own jet plane, and what? Is that what's going on?
No, right after that, it got the world figured out where the money was, and it got very, very competitive. Everybody started kind of seeing the success, and it wasn't really from us. I mean, we kept our mouth shut, but a lot of the other competitors,
Right.
were bragging about how well they're doing, and so it just got a lot of other people entered the market. The prices got very competitive, and so we had to pivot again. I mean, we really, t-shirts was all we knew, but that wasn't going to make us the money we needed. So we really kind of doubled down on other products. I mean, currently we have over 85 products in our app, and where t-shirts used to be 100% of our sales, they're less than 40% of our sales today.
Wow. So now, just taking a look at this journey up to this point, what do you feel exclusively were some of the greatest challenges in your business career up to that point?
Yeah, I was getting customers. I mean, luckily it kind of organically happened early on, but then just to keep customers happy and keep them from switching, that was a huge deal for us because we never, for us, we're not well funded. I mean, we're not funded at all. We're just, if we make money, we can reinvest in our offering and our app. And so we really had to find ways beyond price to keep customers with us.
Now that I love that. So can you talk about that? How do you keep customers without just charging? I mean, I feel like I'm baiting you here, and I feel like I know part of the answer, but don't people just buy based on price?
A lot of them do, but a lot of them see the benefits of, working with a guy who really has their back. Like I'd say our best customers today are ones where in the early days of their business, we gave them a chance. We gave them some discounts. We gave them, some more, I guess, more hands-on than other businesses would. And we've really built these personal relationships that kept customers that, even though they know today they could go to one of our competitors and get a cheaper price, they just are more comfortable with us. Anybody in teelaunch that's a customer, I mean, they can find me on Facebook or Skype or anything day or night. I mean, they have a question, I'm there for them. Versus like our competitors are real, they're more real businesses, employees that work 9 to 5, and you don't have the access, And then for us too, we take a lot of customers' feedback. We a lot of our products are at the prodding of customers. They say, hey, I've seen this, it's doing well. Can you figure out where to get it from, how to make it, how to put it in the app? And when we can, we do. And that really helps us
So you took something that maybe was a commodity like eggs, but then you created it like you you really created partnerships. It sounds like. I mean, you said your competitors are actual businesses, and I want to correct that because you're clearly doing 1 million a month. You're clearly a business. But I think what you're saying is that they're more like corporate. Like the
Correct.
kind of that corporate gray. It makes me think of that Apple commercial where everyone was like the zombies. Like Orwell, 1984. Where it's just people are showing up to a job, collecting a paycheck, going home. Whereas you're forging partnerships with them that even so, like you said, some of your best customers in the beginning, you really did what you had to do to help them get started. So that like they might not have come out of the gate and been like, "Hey, I'll be paying you 100,000 a month," but you just were helping them, so they didn't have to worry about the logistics and all that stuff. They could just focus on selling, and like you took care of all that other stuff for them, and really was in their corner. And now, like you said, they could probably try and switch and pay less per item, but they know that with an unknown future, nobody knows what's going to come out tomorrow. That you are on their team, and if they switch and go to someone else, and it's just price, that they lose that. They lose that partnership. Is
Yep.
that
Exactly.
accurate?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I just want to emphasize that because I think that it's easy for people to gloss over that. And a lot of people want to have businesses where they don't interact with customers and where money just flies out of a computer, and I mean, I'm an online marketer, so I get that. Like, and I've been, I've had those fallacies in my head. But what I really love is that, like, you're in with the customer. Like, that's all a company is a group of people solving the problem of another group of people with a product or service. And so what you just said is that you built personal relationships, you gave access to people so the customers would feel comfortable and feel heard, and feel supported to solve their problem. And now that you solve their problem, they're giving you all their business. And I just think that's a fantastic lesson for anyone else that's starting out and struggling. Is there anything else that you would recommend to people that maybe where you were before you had the big breakthrough? Like they just feel like they're slogging through every day and they feel like they're doing all the right things. Would you have any recommendations to someone like that?
You just can't give up. I mean, at this point, I mean, there was a lot of points in the last 4 years where I really wanted to give up, but you just could. It didn't make sense because you knew you had something. Although
Mm.
it may wasn't as successful as you thought it was or busy as it used to be, but you just saw the success you've had, and you just knew you had something there. So I think a lot of people, like there's an analogy with the guys digging a hole, and he's
Mhm.
like 1 foot from gold, and it's like he just wished he would have kept going. And if you believe in your idea, which again, if you don't, obviously I don't think you should keep slogging away if it's something you really don't believe in. But if you really believe in it, you just got to keep. And like for us, like I said, we didn't have the money to build this app, but we just got as many credit cards as we could, and I was so sure of it that it made sense because you just see the excitement in these groups about these people who before it was like, hey, I'm just selling shirts on Teespring, I'm making money, but I'm building nothing. Versus now, I have a store on Shopify, I'm building something I can sell. Now I can sell whatever I want versus just selling T-shirts. We just knew it was something to pursue. And then as it kept going, it's like, although it's hard and we're facing a lot of competition, I knew there's something there by really understanding the technology, what's possible, and really figuring out what's the next T-launch. What's the next
Mm.
iteration of T-launch that really gets us to where we want to be.
I love that. So, just again to break this down, it's a lot of interaction with customers and seeing what the customers need and want and building for them. Like you even said that a lot of your features that you have right now and the services you offer are based on requests from your customer base. So it's not something that you cackled about like a mad scientist in a closet. It was like, this is going to be amazing, and came it out and everyone was like, ooh, ah. It was literally you just heard people repeatedly asking for something. You went, okay, we'll do that. We'll figure out a way to do it, and just to keep slogging it out if you feel like you're onto something. I think that that's really important. I don't know if you recognize the importance of that, and maybe because you grew up working in restaurants and dealing with customers all the time, that I don't know that that's second nature to you. But I think that's really powerful. So you said the first problem was getting customers, and then after that was keeping them happy, right? Keeping them coming back and keeping them happy.
Yep, exactly.
So how do you do that? Is there any suggestions or tips on that? What did you learn anything about that? Is any secret sauce to that?
I mean, for me, it was really keeping a pulse on what was happening in the business. Like at any time, day or night, I could tell you how many orders are late, which orders they are, why they're late, because we just really kept a good. And again, I'm not saying we didn't have trouble because there's been a lot of times where, like last Christmas, for example, one of our factories that does pillows, blankets, that kind of stuff, it was taken out by a hurricane, and
Hmm.
so we had a miserable Christmas on But again, for us, like that instance, okay, this is interesting. So last summer we had one of our biggest providers went bankrupt, and so we spent
Wow.
the next 3 months trying to figure out how do we find replacements. And so we found this other factory in Florida. At the same time, I was also building our own factory in Utah
Hmm.
because I knew that I didn't want to have one factory ever again because it was too scary.
Right.
So as we're building that facility, which wasn't going to be ready for Christmas, we just were getting it ready. A hurricane takes out the facility in Florida, and so we had to get that facility in Utah going as fast as we possibly can because you couldn't just wait for the guys in Florida to get back on their feet. And so it's really like in our career, it's about building backups. Like when we first started, it was our own production, which was, a bad idea. And then we had one other vendor, which is a better idea. And then we kept building all these partnerships, all these vendors. So that way we didn't have one failure point because a lot of these businesses have really been, and, individual customer stores have been decimated by one problem or another. Because again, people are not, Facebook's unforgiving also, and so are their customers. If you have too much bad feedback and that page is gone and the pixel that you spend all this time building up is gone, your business is gone. And so we've really tried to find a way to really smooth out the curves so we don't actually put any of our customers out of business.
I love that. So what you're saying is you've discovered that one is the worst number in business. So you're trying to never have one key customer, one key source of customers, one key manufacturer. You might have one key, but then you're working on a backup right away because
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, man. Talk about Murphy's Law, like a flipping hurricane just comes and takes out
It was
your
nuts.
factory. My gosh. So how do you handle that? Like you have all these orders that are due and your factory's wiped out. Do you get on the phone with all the customers? Like you send out an email broadcast? Do you not say anything and just scramble? Like what do you?
So that one we handled wrong. The factory was very confident that they could deliver, and we kind of took their for certain products. So basically, this factory did 10 different products. Our main product was blankets, which we had our facility in Utah was taking most of those, but all the other little products, the guys, we only had one vendor for at the time. And they were very sure they could rebound, and they weren't, and that didn't happen. So we basically just gave an obscene amount of money back to our customers because we really dropped the ball. We should have, at the time, we shouldn't have taken their confidence and their ability to rebound at face value. We really should have assumed it wasn't going to happen. So that particular instance, we had egg in our face, and I really should have.
Now, is that a lesson, like in hindsight you say that, and at the time, like were you on the ground and you knew how bad it was? Or were you on the phone and they're like, no, it's okay, and you're like, I don't know, I'm watching the news, and they're like, no, it's not that bad, and you just trusted them?
So we actually sent a guy that drove to Florida to check on him.
Oh.
And everything looked promising. Although the factory was down for about 3 weeks, they had generators, they repaired the roof. It looked like they were back. But what we didn't figure out until the ad was all over is that one big customer who would refuse to stop sending orders. So they were hundreds of thousands of orders in the hole. And this one customer obviously they were, trying to service them first because it's a, multi-million-dollar customer. And so, yeah, in hindsight, next time I should have drove down there earlier and really should have checked on them a little earlier. But even though we checked on them, that didn't really give us the full picture either because they also admitted at the time they made a mistake. They really should have been a little more forthcoming with what was happening because what happened was they had all these late orders. Most of them went out, and I still had to give the people their money back. So in the end of the day, it would have been smarter to say, early December, just cancel the orders, give people their money back, and don't ship them the product that they've already gotten their money back for. So we learned a big lesson there, and we built. It was tough because there was such a weird coincidence. Like our biggest, so 25% of our business was this one factory that went bankrupt, and then this other factory took, half of their slack, and they both have issues in the same 6 months. It's never happened since, and I don't think it'll happen again. But we've gotten much smarter in how we do things. That way, we have like coffee mug is one of our biggest products. We have 5 different vendors, so we're never going to be in a situation where
That again.
if one. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. No, I think that's really, what an experience to go through. Now, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing with this, but how does that must take a financial toll, and how do you survive the ups and downs? How do you, like you even talked about the massive debt you had for the equipment. How do you operate like that? Because a lot of people freak out if they rack up a credit card.
Yeah, at the time, I don't know how I didn't freak out. It was one of those things where it was there and just you were so almost like so hopeless. It's like, why even worry about it? And then once you started making money, I became even more miserly. We paid off all our debt. We have, there's no extravagance. We have a simple office. We have 5 employees. The rest are either at the factory or contract. And we just kept it very, very lean, just so if we ever got into that scenario, we never had to stress about it. Our cash reserves are pretty healthy because We just know when you remember the bad times, you just don't get too
Right.
spend happy because you just know, a little, because that's happened to a lot of our customers. I mean, they're living basically campaign to campaign, and they have a bad Christmas where they have a bunch of chargebacks. You're out of business if you have no cash flow. Even though the business maybe is still healthy and still can make money, if you run out of cash and can't fulfill orders, it's over.
So cash is king. So you can have debt and you can be servicing debt, but cash is king. If you have cash flow coming through the door and you're able to store that cash somewhere where creditors or debtors, people that you owe to, can't take it from you right away, so you can at least negotiate payback terms and stuff, you're still in the game, right? So again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but so as long as you've got some cash in the bank, it's like gasoline in the tank. You've got some gas to drive to the next gas station, hopefully, and you can maybe get from one gas station to another to keep trying to fill up that tank. Is that what you're trying to say? Even if you have this monster looming debt kind of outside you, because it's outside you, if your cash flow is good and you're not burning your cash, so you're liquid, so that you're staying liquid with some reserves, you can kind of keep things moving, hopefully, to get to where you can get enough to start paying that debt. Am I on the ball at all?
You are. Yeah. I mean, for us, it was a little bit easier, thankfully. We just made so much money in the first 6 months that we were able to pay off a vast majority of it. And so and then it kind of, you have to make decisions. Like, okay, spend a lot of money every year, hundreds of thousands of dollars on new products and new improvements to the app. And you got to kind of weigh that against how much cash is coming in, how fast do you innovate. I think a lot of companies that get VC money or get a lot of money quickly, they just start hiring people left and right, and they really just start spending beyond what they know. Like for me, we've been through the restaurant business enough where we've had to fire people over the years, and it's never easy.
No,
and so I don't want to be in that position where you run out of money and have to start firing people. So we just kept it very, very lean.
So how do you know when to fire someone, and how do you approach it?
So I've only had to fire in this business two people.
But in general, because you've been in the restaurant business and that.
Yeah, for us, I mean, fortunately, we're bad at it. I mean, we let people stay way longer than they probably deserve to because we feel bad for them. But yeah, once it starts affecting the business, you have to cut them loose. I mean, for us, it's one of those things where you can tell when they're either in the morale for the other employees or the customers. You have to make a decision. And like I said, for me, I've done a pretty poor job at it because I feel bad for people. But over the years, I've matured and realize that you kind of have to put the business first or everybody's going to be out of a job.
Now, you've mentioned this a couple of times already in the interview, but to specifically focus on it, what are some of the greatest mistakes you see your clients and other entrepreneurs making? You talked about like they're living off one campaign. Can you just kind of go through, being that you are the fulfillment for so many clients and so many businesses, like what are the top 3, 5, 6, 10? What are the top handful of mistakes that you see them making?
Hands down, it's cash flow. I mean, a lot of people don't, because they're new in this business, because a lot of our customers they're regular people who just figured out, Facebook ads well enough and started, hiring designers, and they figured it out. But I think what they don't realize is there's a lot of ups and downs. I mean, our business, it's very cyclical. It's kind of like Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas. Those are your 3 times you're busy. And you're pretty much losing money or making very little or breaking even the rest of the times. And so, unfortunately, like we've learned that in the restaurant business, because it's the same difference. You're making money some months and losing money some months. So you got to make sure that if you had a really good month and made $100,000, don't spend $100,000. You should spend $20,000 and then keep that other 80 for the other 4 or 5 months you're losing money. So hands down, it's cash flow. Because we've seen so many great businesses where they were doing so well, and then they have a few dud campaigns in a row and they start losing money, and they just don't have the cash flow to keep it going. So yeah, that's the biggest one. Number 2 is not utilizing your data. I mean, in the early days, you're making so much money that people really didn't care that much about retargeting and email lists and all this stuff that now people just take for granted, that you have to monetize those things. And the early days are just so easy. And when you're doing Facebook and you're selling a shirt for $5 in ads, you don't really worry about, how to best use that data. You're just figuring out how to sell more shirts. And so the customers that have survived are the ones who get really smart about leveraging every piece of data they've collected in the running of their business.
I love that. So cash flow, and you also talked about being aware of trends, right? And cyclical factors and seasonality of your business. So the first one was cash flow. Just not being overzealous, not spending today's money on the hope that you'll make money tomorrow. Like, I guess spend like you're going to live forever, but wait, live like you're going to die today, but spend like you're going to live forever. like, like kind of like
Yeah.
that. So that's the cash flow. And then the trends. There's a great tool, trends.google.com. Anybody can go there and put a keyword in, and you can adjust the country to make it worldwide. You can adjust the date range if you want, so you can go based on your country and date range. I always go the longest length possible. And what always fascinates me is that the keyword searches tends to model the demand. Like anytime someone tells me that a business is seasonal, if I find out what their keywords are and I go to Google Trends and I put in there, which is a free tool, you can actually see the seasonality right there. It kind of shows you where the peaks are and the troughs. It even works with Bitcoin. So it's kind of interesting
Wow.
to be able to match that, and that way you can see demand, because that's what people don't realize is a search engine. It's our thoughts. People go to Google and they put what they're thinking about into there. Like if I'm trying to see if the Iraqi dinar is going up in value because I bought some and I want to know if it's time to sell, I can see that kind of thing. What's happening is there a lot of people looking on that. I mean, it's all supply and demand, right? So where attention goes, growth tends to follow. So we had cash flow, being aware of trends and seasonality, so that way you can have predictability in your business. I think that's huge. And then using your data. And so for data, you mentioned retargeting. So that's like building a pixel with Facebook ads or Google ads, which some people are talking about might be going away at some point because of documentaries that have come out recently, like The Great Hack on Netflix and other ones with this Cambridge Analytica going on with Facebook. Cambridge Analytica, for those that don't know, was a data mining company that did personality surveys through Facebook ads and then integrated with Facebook's API to pull all your profile data. And then they would use that to identify small groups of populations in a country that they called the persuadables, that they could persuade. And they created marketing campaigns around persuading those people to vote for their clients who were political candidates. So there's probably, I think they took on 10 customers a year, which is 10 countries a year, and they would influence elections in these countries by basically targeting people that were on the fence that hadn't chosen a side and making a rallying point for them, which meant them lean towards their client. And that's part of what that whole big thing was there. And so now there's been a lockdown on privacy. So but at the same time, it's a catch-22, because if you are a provider and you've got a cure for arthritis, on one hand, people want their privacy protected, but on the other hand, you should be able to, for the good of the world and to help these suffering people, you should be able to find out where they are and reach them with your message. So that's kind of like this catch-22, right? Where you should have access to people's data so you can reach out and help them, but some people are doing it for profit and for gain and not necessarily for the greater good. And that's this kind of yin and yang that we deal with all the time. It's the same thing like freedom and equality. Everybody wants equality, but when you have equality, that's socialism. And with equality, I mean, that's great, but then the high producers have no incentive to produce. There's no motivation. It's like if no matter what, you're running a marathon and everyone's going to get a medal for participation, there's no real drive for you to try to be first. It's that kind of concept. Whereas freedom is where you get rewarded for being the best, but now it's not equal because not everyone can take first place in a race. So it's this constant yin yang between those two. And anyways, I just wanted to talk about that because use the data you get. When you get it, it's valuable. And I think that's the point I was trying to make here, because some of this stuff might go away, like the retargeting people say, and email lists. Can you talk about how and why do you use email lists in e-commerce?
I think most people, they don't use it because they think, okay, to make money in the first sale is very hard. So say you spend $30 to get a customer to sell them something that you make $30 on. Most of the people would say it's a wash, and they kind of give, that's a lot. I didn't make any money. Let's move on. But now you have this customer, you have their email address, you might have their phone number, and now you have someone that you can send targeted emails about other products to their phone or to their email. And so it's a very powerful thing because before people weren't really worried about the next sale. They're like, I need to make money on this first sale, which is very hard, especially nowadays with Facebook ads. But if you say, hey, as long as I can make a little money or break even, I know I can make money on the second, third, and fourth sale. It becomes a lot easier to grow to business and keep. And so people have figured that out. And so things like Klaviyo and other pieces of software become very valuable because now you set up these automatic sequences to say, if this person bought this shirt and I have this other product, I have a blanket or a mug or whatever with the same message, the same niche. Now, a week later or 2 weeks later, once they've gotten that shirt and I know they're happy, I'm going to send them an email and try to sell them something else. It's become a lot more It's become powerful because people have really understood now more the value of their data and the value of keeping a customer happy. Because if you're just worried about the first sale, if that customer is happy or not, you don't really, it's not very important to you because you're never going to talk to them again. You're never going to try to sell them again. But when you know you want that customer to buy from you several times a year, every year in the future, you're going to be much more concerned about customer service and treating that customer right.
So now you're not just building, like you're actually building something that's got a legacy attached to it, right? That's got breadth to it, that you're in it for the lifetime of the customer. A good example is, I mean, a one-off thing can be tough to build a business around, but if you are that person's go-to, take a dentist. Most people go to the dentist because they've got some sort of pain. That's a one-off thing. But that dentist should become kind of a part of the family, so to speak, where you go for regular checkups and that to prevent that, where they become kind of your guide, at least they're your mentor, at least in that respect. So it's not just fixing the one problem, it's a lifetime. So it's not about making money on the first sale because they know that there's more opportunities. A good example of this is, if you want to be in the supplement business, you might have to give away your protein or whatever for free at first, but once you know who those people are, they're going to be getting protein on a regular basis, and that's where the money is made. It's not in the meeting them, it's in having the lifelong relationship with them. And that's what you're saying is use email lists for that. And that's the history. That's not just email marketing. That's the history of advertising. Before we had the internet, they would do that with direct mail. That's direct mail. Like advertising by mail was the original internet marketing, where they would send letters out to get orders. And it was lucky if you had a 1% response rate to your direct mail promotion, that was a smashing success, which meant that 99% of people didn't want what you were offering them. But once that 1% that would respond, they would follow up with a second, third, fourth, fifth offer, and they could expect 20% responses in some cases, some even higher, 40, 50% responses, because they had a better idea of who that person was and what their problems were, some of what they would be wanting to buy and look into. So do you know any insights on what your customers do for best case, like best practices in terms of email? You talked about why we would use email. Do you have any, like, do you email before holidays, just on the holiday, after? Like, is there any kind of strategies like that you're aware of that some of your best customers use?
I mean, there's a lot of strategies. I mean, most of them are using, software like Klaviyo, and they figure out what makes sense. You do a lot of A/B testing because you can't really say everything works for every business. So a lot of them, they do a lot of testing, figure out, okay, how many days after they get the product should I send out the email? And the question is, how often do I email? A lot of our customers that take the idea of I'm going to email them as much as I can. And if they unsubscribe, they unsubscribe, but I just want to get as many emails in their mailbox as I can. So it's like, it's a really, again, like I said, it's a lot of A/B testing, but I've seen a lot more, like, because a lot of our customers, we get on their email list just to see kind of what they're doing, because knowing what they're doing helps us know what we should be doing, in terms of if they're bundling different products together, what kind of offers they're giving, because, our mind, we have to know, if someone's trying to sell a shirt for $20, we need to know what we really need to sell, because we know what they kind of want for margins. So we have to know what do we have to sell it to them for where this makes sense to them.
Got it. I love that you've had such an emphasis on understanding your customer. Like, that's not something you're saying, like, I really go out of my way to understand my customer, but in your speech, that's coming through a lot. Like you even just said there, you sign up for your customers' email campaigns to know what they're trying to do, so that way you can know how to price your stuff so they'll want to stay with you, and so they'll still be happy with you. Like, what's the goals, right? Like, that's just a really smart way to go about it. I mean, it's just all about the end user, to the point, like I said, you're signing up for their email list. Like, when was the last time you went and got a haircut and that person you got a haircut from went and, like, checked out your business website just to know more about you? That's really powerful. Are there any other habits that you feel have helped you on your path to success?
You know what? I think it's really just the way I was raised. I mean, we don't, although we've obviously businesses have failed and we've, given up and moved on, you just, once you believe in it, you just give it your all. And so for us, we've really lived and breathed this industry. I mean, like I said before, 6 years ago, I knew nothing about anything about this. And now I would say from, DTG to sublimation to laser etching, like all these processes, like we have a whole building full of equipment that maybe we don't use every day, but at least we'd understand how it works, because you kind of work backwards. You say, okay, well, what equipment exists and what does it do? And then how do you find equipment and match it up with blanks to make a product that nobody's done before, or what they've done before, but not at a one-off basis. And that's kind of how we look at it.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, because a lot of people I know, just personally, having shopped around for some print on demand stuff, most people just want like 1,000, 5,000 orders at once. That's what they want because it just simplifies that. It's an easier problem for them to solve. Like, oh, well, if you're going to order 5,000 and I'm going to, and it's going to take me this much time to set the machines up and blah, blah, blah. But you're doing them one off, which is a totally different challenge, right? Because it's how are you able to do that at scale and at volume and still maintain profitability while having a price that's competitive for the end user?
Fun part is it's all about technology. So the guys, our own production and then, the factories that we use, they've all figured out the only way to make any money is at scale. And so, for example, we have one of our factories that they do all the work for like Walgreens, Shutterfly, Snapfish, those kind of companies. And the scale that they are working at is just astronomical. I mean, they're doing hundreds of thousands of mugs a week, hundreds of thousands of journals a week. I mean, it is just, but again, that's almost in our business we need to get to is that level of technology. Because again, you're right. If it's a very labor intensive one-off process, the cost is so much that no one can make money on. But once you start doing basically, even though you're doing one at a time, you're still doing 100,000 mugs a week, then that cost gets less and less and less and less. And now you're at the point where the things are getting to the point where traditional methods of decoration, screen printing and pad printing, and the stuff you do in bulk, because there is a setup, there is a process that has to happen before you can produce, even one of those. The gap between has been decreasing, and it's all because of technology and then just scale. Because these companies they started real small, but then the demand is getting so great. You think of all the different business models, Shutterfly and Redbubble and Society6, and it made print on demand so necessary and helped us scale to a certain level where it just now it's not any harder to do one of something than to do 100 of it.
So where do you see? So let's talk about where do you see the future of this industry going?
I mean, it's only going up. I mean, like I said, people are really focusing on what else can be done on demand, because the way people are looking at it is before, there's this idea that even when you're a big business, let's go to China, let's get a whole bunch of stuff, let's wait 3 months, let's put it on the shelf. If it doesn't sell, then we discount and discount and discount until it's gone. And although that model makes sense for certain people, once you really look at the math behind it, it's like, what did it cost to hold all that stuff for 3 months? What did it cost when you actually you sold some at full price and you discounted some? And so there's just certain places where print on demand, although traditionally the cost is higher than doing in bulk or doing in a foreign country, it's become much more popular, much more accepted, just because of the way it really helps to, exactly what your costs are. So if you say, okay, I don't know what I'm going to sell this month, so I really don't want to guess. I don't want to forecast what I have to produce and hold in inventory. Print on demand allows you to know exactly what your costs are, because again, I mean, obviously there's some variability in terms of your marketing or some of your ops, but you know that if you're selling something for 10 and it costs you 5, your margin's 5 every time, versus like, maybe my cost is 2, but I have all those other variables where it could cost me 7, it could cost me 3. It's really been, and before it was something that couldn't scale. But like 10, 15 years ago, you could never think of one facility doing, 30,000 shirts a day. But now it happens in 4 or 5 facilities across the country, because the technology has gotten to the point, and the operators have gotten to the point where they know they have to scale to a certain level, because at Christmas everybody scales up 3 to 5 times. And so if you're doing 10,000 shirts in January, you got to do 50,000 shirts in December. So they've just gotten really good at understanding how do we scale up and down to meet demand.
And so a lot of that's, like you said, is fueled by technology and analyzing the data and the trends.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. Got it. So now, what are some of the biggest struggles for people that are trying to sell physical products, like some of your clients and customers? What are the biggest things when you talked about some of the people that you've had to work with more intimately, because why? What were some of the things that they were having issues with in the beginning? Like, why would you have to do that? Why aren't they just coming in and making an order and then, selling it?
I mean, a lot of people, Facebook ads is a huge thorn in people's side nowadays. I mean, the way Facebook's been operating, I mean, they restrict the supply because people don't want to see ads, and then they raise the price, and they keep doing that year after year after year. So guys that could make a lot of money 5 years ago, it's near impossible to make money now. And so Facebook ads is a big one. For us, we've really been helping people develop. That's why we develop new products. Because if someone's been selling, they've seen a t-shirt ad for the last 5 years, every day for 5 years, even if you have the best design in the world, they're almost blind to that because they've already maybe bought 10 shirts. They've just tired of seeing those ads. But now they see something completely off the wall, like custom headphones or a custom balloon, or we have all these new things we're working on because it just allows people just to kind of beat the ad blindness of Facebook. Because again, you really have to, with the supply getting restricted and the price increasing, you have to figure out how to get your click-through rates higher to actually make any money. And so that's I think the biggest trouble we've seen is just when you're only, and that's the problem too, when you don't rely on your email list, your only source of customers is Facebook. And so once Facebook becomes unprofitable and hard to scale, then you have no other recourse because you don't know any other way to grow your business. So we've seen a lot of our customers that have just given up because Facebook was the only thing they knew. But the ones who really have figured out, okay, figuring out how do I advertise on Instagram, not necessarily ads, but like working partnerships with influencers.
Yep.
How do you figure out, even though Google AdWords has always been popular, in our world it really wasn't, because it wasn't something you could figure out what they're searching for, but you didn't know anything about the person. You didn't know if they were a nurse. You didn't know if they lived in Michigan, and Facebook gave you that. So, but then people have now been going back to Google because it just became cheaper in some respects than Facebook.
Right.
People moved out to Pinterest and Snapchat, and so the people that really went outside their comfort zone and learned new platforms and learned new advertising techniques, they're the ones that stayed in business because they just didn't rely on Facebook completely.
It sounds just like the biggest things that they've had to master and learn are the fundamentals of marketing. Like legitimately, just how do I get customers? How do I make an ad and media channel, whether it's Facebook or Snapchat or Pinterest or Google or whatever? How do I make that profitable? Like, what's my client acquisition strategy? Like, how do I have it documented to a T where I know what to do and I learn the ins and outs of the platform? So because there's going to be changes and adapt. And then once you get that customer, how do I get them to come back again and again? Because like you said, the most expensive thing is getting that one-time first experience, that customer the first time. Same in dating. The hardest thing to do in dating, is to find someone that you like, that likes you, to go on a date with. But after that point, it's really up to how committed are both of you, like, do your interests match up and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, it can be difficult, that's part as well, but it's really tough, I think, to find for a lot of people that they want to date. Just from talking to my friends, I'm super happy with the girl I've got, but I'm just saying in general, using that analogy, that if you were in if your business was just one night stands, you'd never have kids, you'd never have grandkids. Like, it would just be tough to have a legacy because you'd have no depth with anybody. So it sounds like basic marketing principles, like how do you use a platform to meet new people, to do business with them, and then to get them to stay with you forever. That sounds like a really, 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 I mean, it sounds like it. It sounds like the biggest problem your customers and clients have had. So now moving forward, I guess I want to ask, like, who are the best type of people for you? Like, who do you work with best? Not everyone is for you. Not everyone is a fit for your business. So who are you ideal for? Who do who gets the most benefit from working with you?
People that really understand that what you're doing today is not what you got to do forever. I mean, that are really flexible in what they're selling and their business model. The guys we work well with, because we're the same way. I mean, obviously, like I said, t-shirts were 100% of our business. Now it's less than 40%. And 2 years from now, it might be something that's completely off the wall and different. So people really got to be flexible, and they got to be willing to put the time and effort into developing new products, new channels, and to have a dialogue with us. Like, some customers we've never talked to because they've never reached out and we've never been able to get a hold of them, and some we talk to every day. I mean, we have a Slack channel where, I got 4 or 5 our big customers that can, Slack me day or night. So it's just really at a point of someone has to be really willing to put the effort in and to be flexible. Those are the ones that do really well with us.
Got it. Now, I know that there's a really powerful method of combining info products or digital products with physical products and back and forth. That can be a fantastic way to help with margins. That for some people in some markets, it can be easier to acquire a customer by using a physical product for sale in the beginning, just because it's easier to describe and it's more tangible for the buyer. And then you can back end digital and information products where the margin's much higher, and that's where you can make your profit, or vice versa. So for anyone that's listening to this, if you're selling digital products or something like that, if you have a group that you're doing or a membership program, it'd be really easy to just send them some swag and some gear, to help, I don't want to say brand, but to really help develop an affinity and a relationship with that client, that customer. I mean, I'm looking at my CrossFit hat right now that's so dirty I probably need to throw it out and get a new one. But I love it. I don't even train at a CrossFit gym anymore, but I still love the methodology and I still follow it in my workouts. So I still wear the hat. And so that's a way where, it's kind of a service, but the product has kind of built a bridge, I guess, with me. So that's a way to share the info product with in the digital product world with the physical product and marry them together. So for anyone that's listening to this, if you're interested, I highly recommend you get involved and check it out. So Christopher, what are some of the best ways for them to reach out to you if anyone's got some questions or wants to take a look at maybe some products that they could try printing on demand?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Facebook, LinkedIn, my direct email. Like I said, I'm always willing to talk to anyone about their ideas or their business, and like, I even respond to every piece of junk mail I've ever gotten. And it's funny because these cold emails, which are not personal, they're just generated. But I've had the most amazing conversations with other marketers who just had an idea, and they think, okay, most people are just either ignore junk mail or whatever. But I talk to every single one of them because it's fascinating to hear their stories, and they have the same goals that me and you have.
So you can go check them out at teelaunch.com, teelaunch.com, or they look you up on, so you said social media, right? So it's
Yep.
Christopher, Hamze, Hamze, Christopher Hamze. And your
Yep,
email
exactly.
is christopher@teelaunch.com.
Correct.
Awesome. Christopher, this has been an amazing interview. I've got a lot of background on where you came from. We talked about your industry and where it's going and some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in order to be a leader in the field. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
No, I think we covered it all.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for coming and joining us today. It's been an honor and a pleasure. For people listening, I think it's just an easy, low-cost way to develop your product line, to have a reason to activate past customers, to have something to do like a promotional special, to create a bundle. If you have a product that hasn't been moving, I mean, Sports Illustrated was so famous for having the football phone, and that phone was to sell copies of their magazine. So I really think that having a solid, reliable print-on-demand person to go to can be a very powerful asset for any business. Highly recommend you check out Christopher at teelaunch.com. And thank you again, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.